Hey guys, Cindy Williams here. Welcome to the Bliss to Abundance podcast. Today we are going to be talking about what six-figure plus travel businesses do differently. So if that sounds like fun, keep on listening. Welcome to Bliss to Abundance, the podcast for growth-minded travel entrepreneurs. All right, guys, I have my guests, Andy and Liz Sutherland from Come and See Travel. How are you guys doing today?
We're great.
We're doing wonderful.
Well, I'm so excited to have you guys on the show. And actually, Andy and Liz, their agency got invited out to the GTM conference this year. And if you guys don't know, the GTM conference is one of the best conferences you can go to as a travel professional, but they have a requirement of having either seven-figure sales as an individual agent or multiple seven figures as an agency. So I thought, what better guest to have on the show to really share with our community about if you want to get to that kind of six figures and beyond mark, what should you be doing differently? So let me just start by saying, because obviously you guys started your agency from scratch and built it up to where it is today. For those people that that's their dream, what would be some top tips towards the beginning of the journey that you think are important for them to know?
Well, I think first and foremost is think about what you're really trying to accomplish with the agency. What do you want to do? Why is it what you want to do? If you can work on those goals, then that gives you a groundwork to start growing from there.
Yeah, I think that's smart. Liz, what do you think?
Yeah, having that why in mind that you can always go back to of why you're starting the agency, having goals in place of, what do you want this to be in 5, 10, 15 years? Mm-hmm. Do you want your family involved? Do you, what kind of model do you want? Just having all those things in mind so that as you progress, you can always go back to your why of why you did this when it gets tough.
Absolutely, because that clarity is power, right? Mm-hmm. I always talk about having that foundation, and I think when you always have that tie into what you're working on, what you're working towards, then on the difficult days you can be like, oh, this is why I'm doing this, right? Mm-hmm. But the other thing I think is key, and you guys tell me what you think, but I think it's so key to be very clear on exactly how you want that business to kind of work with your life, right? I'm a big advocate of building your business around your family. When I left corporate and, we sold another business that we had, and it was really important to me. Our kids were really young at the time. I remember my daughter was 3, and I remember that's when we started our entrepreneurial journey of we didn't work for anyone else anymore. And I remember thinking she's going to grow up differently because we're going to be here every day. We're going to pick her up every day. We're going to drop her off we're not going to miss any of the soccer games and the ballet recitals and all the things. And that's one of the things I think is powerful about having that clarity. We said, we took everything we didn't like about corporate, right? And we said, we're going to make the business fit around our life. We don't want to do nights. We don't want to do weekends. We want to be able to travel and all of the things. Mm-hmm. But because we had that clarity early on, when something came into our peripheral that was in contradiction to that, right? It was that's not in alignment for what our vision is. So no, thank you, but no, we're not going to add that thing or go to that thing or do that thing. So I love that you guys talk about that foundation piece. Now, as people start to kind of get in and they start to grow, what do you think is key in terms of scaling an operation, or either becoming a great solo operation or the first initial steps to kind of start that path towards bigger sales in their agency or in their travel business?
Well, I think about your ideal clients. Who are the people that you actually want to be working with? Preferably people with decent budgets and mm-hmm. that love to travel. And not only that, but appreciate you for all the time and effort that you put into taking care of them as well. So I think if we're thinking about goals and planning those things, then let's shoot for that first. We're willing to take on clients, but the clients that really make the most amount of sense are the ones who are going to appreciate you for you. And it's not an uphill battle every single time. So,
yeah. And I think hiring ICs that have that shared vision is also very important, because when we were first starting out, our gut was to just like hire anybody who wanted to be a travel agent.
Yeah.
And then kind of as, we've done your program, Cindy, we
Yeah.
really like realized, okay, that's not going to help us truly. I mean, we may get a couple outliers from that do really well, but now when we interview people, we're like, this is what we want, and we want you to want that as well. And so we make kind of our culture and our expectations very clear when we're hiring, and it's gotten, I think, a lot better.
Yeah, and I love what you guys bring up about it's because it's really about having the confidence to say no to certain clients, right? That's not easy for everyone. And when you're new or you're not working for an amazing company like your company and you don't have that structure that goes, we support you in this, right? Like this is our ideal client. This is who we're working towards. This is who we want to serve in the world, and kind of figuring that out and being kind of like in alignment with that. But what I see, one of the biggest mistakes I see with like new agents making, or even those new agency owners starting to hire, but then, kind of like, figuring it out as they go, is they'll just take any business. And any business is not good business. It stresses your staff out. It causes burnout. If you have tire kicker after tire kicker and you're not making any sales, you're like, I did all this work, I did all this learning, and I'm not seeing, any fruit from my harvest kind of thing, right? So I think that's one of those. I love that you guys are kind of give people permission to have those boundaries, because if people will abuse you as much as you let them, right? But having that confidence early on doesn't always come in that new agent track, for sure. I love that.
Well, and specific to sales, if we're talking about ideas, it's really important for the agent specifically to think about, well, what do I really want to specialize in? What's my niche? What do I love booking? When I bring new agents on, I don't pigeonhole them and say, hey, you guys can only book this or that. I really want them to do the things that are going to make them flourish and give them joy from doing those things. Yeah. And just like you mentioned, it's okay to say no. It's okay. I'm not taking this on, or whatever destination it might be, because it's just not in your bandwidth or in your margin to be able to take that on. And so I think that again, giving permission to not take on things that you don't need to really makes a difference.
Yeah, and it seems so counterintuitive, because when you're new, you're like, I should take every single lead. I should try to make all the money. And you guys are in kind of my network and circle, as Liz mentioned. Andy and Liz have taken my Wanderlust CEO program, which helped them scale their agencies. But one of the things I see that kind of happens along the lines of when they get into that realm of like just taking any business, the burnout, but also you guys are in my circle, so there are agencies that just sell Disney that are selling over 7 figures. There are agencies that just do cruises, agencies that just do FIT Europe. So that's what I try to preach with new people all the time, is you don't have to sell the whole world. Like, let that weight come off your shoulders, right? You can, like Andy said, do what you love and what makes you feel good, and how, where you feel inspired. Because trust me, there is someone who just wants to take an Australia trip and then they're going to go back again. You can really niche your business down to where it feels good and you're doing something you love every day. So if you're new or aspiring, don't let that like freak you out. And you're like, oh, I could never sell the whole world like Cindy or Andy or Liz, right? You guys might not have been doing it as long as we haven't. By the way, I don't sell the whole world. That would drive me. Like, we just came back from this conference and I was like, wow, look at just what's changed. So much changes every day it's impossible to sell the whole world. Not impossible, but it's like you're not doing your clients a service by trying to do too much. It's actually better if you're specialized in these things, and then you can build over time so you can have a really big book of what you sell, but you don't feel like you have to do like everything from the beginning. Yeah. What do you guys see most? What are you guys selling most in your agency right now?
Well, Disney destinations are always something that people love to do. And so that's usually something that pops up quite a bit. But honestly, we've seen a huge uptick in European travel. At this point, there's so many places to go. People feel like maybe they've tapped out all the things in the domestic market because they were kind of trapped for 2 years.
Yeah.
And honestly, right now, it's easier to travel to Europe than it is to even get on a cruise in terms of testing and regulations.
That's so
And
true.
people
Even
are
Australia.
open.
Australia flipped from one side to the other. Crazy.
That's exactly right. So people are just open to exploring the world now, which is amazing. It's so fun because we love to do that too.
And I think people have a higher value for their time and appreciation for their time since the pandemic, to where they're like, I've always wanted to go do this. I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And so usually European vacations are like bucket list kind of destinations, and people are just going for it.
Yeah, because they're like, what if I never get to go? Like we all learned that lesson during this whole crazy thing. And, you know, the other side of that is, like you said, it's more accessible. And it's so funny. So if you go back to my videos that I filmed in 2020 and 2021, I said, mark my words, this is what's going to happen. I said, domestic is going to open first and everyone's going to do that. Then they're going to increase to Mexico, Caribbean, Hawaii, and then it's going to be international, and it's going to be like wildfire, and people are going to want to go to the next thing that they couldn't get to. And that's exactly what's happened. So it's, you know, no surprises there, except for like what Liz said. You know, I don't think a lot of agencies expected the volume to like Europe and like international destinations that we're really seeing. And those are big trips, you guys. Like they're what we call comma commissions. That's everybody's favorite. Whenever you sell a trip and that means you're making $1,000 or more on that commission. And not only that, but families, I know when I can get a family to Europe, it opens up their eyes to like what they're, especially if they only have traveled the US, Caribbean. They're like, holy cow, we're in a baby country in the US. There's so much more to the world. And then that opens the door to, well, maybe I want to try an African safari, or maybe I want to go to Thailand, or maybe I want to go somewhere else. So I feel like, you know, maybe we'll be marking my words 2 years from now again, but I feel like this is going to open the door to even more exciting travel as people kind of get that passion for traveling the world again. What do you guys think?
Space, right?
Oh my gosh. Right. Yes. Yes, we're gonna do another show on that. But seriously, Liz is right. There are some companies that are creating offerings that are going to be like space or space adjacent kind of travel. I can't freaking wait. You bet we're gonna have a show on that.
Well, yeah, I think specifically to international travel, I think people have come to terms with it's only a flight. Right. They can truly go wherever. Yes, some flights are longer than others, but it really is just a flight. And what I hope to also see is that people are not waiting to take these Mediterranean trips or Europe or things like that until they retire. That's kind of, as Liz mentioned, a bucket list sort of thing. Well, being 70 years old and traveling around Europe is not the same as doing it when you're 40. Right. And so you'll be able to actually go and do those things. And I think part of that with us as agents as well is able to get people there, you know, to have those conversations and make it happen. It doesn't have to be a once in a lifetime trip. It can be something that they're able to do now while they can still enjoy it.
Yeah. And to show people that it is possible, even if you have younger kids. Like we just took our 7 and 10-year-old to Ireland and Paris, and they had the best time. That's amazing. It was so doable. We were scared to do it for a long time. I think just the busyness and logistics of it, but to show people like you can make those memories and they're so special and so wonderful and so worth it.
Yeah, and what did it teach your kids to see a different land, different cultures? That, like, I just think of like my kids too. Like I didn't travel. My first trip was like Disney World. I was 16. Was my first time on a plane. So I didn't. And literally 3 years later, I was then in the travel industry and traveling the world. Talk about like, you know, culture shock. But I love what you guys say. Not just sharing that journey with your children. So many more families doing that. But what Andy mentioned, and oh my gosh, if I could, you know, go back in time and say a thank you to myself, I traveled the world from 19 to 27, right? Like I was just going all the time in this place and that place. That was the best thing because I went on a cruise this summer, sprained my ankle the week before, and I had the same thought that Andy said, like, wow, like I was almost like, this must be what it feels like to move a little slower, right? Because normally I'm kind of fast paced. But I was like, I am so glad. Like, I did the Eiffel Tower at 21. I'm so glad that I toured Stonehenge when I was running around being silly and had all this energy. So glad I did this hike or that thing or whatever. And it's like, you don't get that time back. So I love that. That's such a great point, guys. Any last words of advice for anyone watching the show today or listening to the show today?
Last advice, reach out to your people and figure out who they are.
Yeah.
We talked about our ideal clients, and honestly, I think that truly makes the biggest difference in how you can grow your own personal business. And if those people are your ideal clients, then their friends and referrals are likely your ideal clients too. And so ask them, be persistent in asking for referrals from people that really fit your model as an ideal client, because it will only help you grow even further in the future.
Yep, referrals are free. They don't cost you any marketing dollars whatsoever. I love that. I love that. Well, guys, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsor.
Meg loves to travel. She's tired of her stressful job and wishes she could have her own travel business. Meg heard travel agents get amazing discounts and work from home or while they travel. This sounds perfect, but Meg has no idea where to start. Meg is worried she will fail because she's never worked in travel, and launching a business is overwhelming. That's when Meg found Careers on Vacation, which taught Meg everything she needed to launch her portable, profitable travel business. Meg got to work with industry expert Cindy Williams and the Careers on Vacation team to launch her travel business in just weeks. Now Meg is helping families book dream vacations, earning amazing commissions, and traveling the world. Meg is so grateful she found Careers on Vacation.
All right, guys, you can visit Careers on Vacation by going to careersonvacation.com. Give them a visit if you are interested in learning how to scale or grow your travel business. And I again want to thank Andy and Liz for being on the podcast today. Guys, thank you so much for your valuable advice, helping out the travel industry and all those agents that are coming up in the industry. I'm sure that they just loved the show today. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having us on.
Yes, thank you, Cindy.
You're so welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.